I'm going to admit, I've been on a boomer shooter itch for a good part of this year. I had been playing stuff like total conversion mods for Doom and a number of more recent indie boomer shooters. I wanted to make videos on them, but for one reason or another, I wasn't able to find the right words to start. This changes today with Prodeus. Prodeus is a very interesting game. One thing boomer shooters are known for is taking the awesome frantic combat and exploration of classic Doom and give it their own spin, be it with its setting, combat systems, and even art style. This game, however, decided to be what I can only call I can't believe it's not Doom 2016, and to tell you the truth, I love it. But I am getting ahead of myself here, so before I elaborate on why I love this game so much, let's get started with the basics, what little there is really. Prodeus puts you under the helmet of the Prodeus guy, or as the game calls him, the Vessel. A space marine of sorts working with some sort of scientists. They were apparently doing an interdimensional travel experiment when everything went wrong, and creatures from a chaos dimension spilled out and took over. The vessel himself was then transported to the titular Prodeus dimension, where the automated mechanical systems neutralized him from being a biological creature and essentially turned him into a Protean. But he escapes back to his main dimension, where the chaos creatures have taken over the facilities. So now, he is in a one-man war against the creatures from both sides, to wipe them out before their war destroys our universe. And that's just about all I could make out from the environmental storytelling and the flavored text hidden in a handful of levels. Because, let's be honest, this is the type of game where the plot is barely an excuse to get you going, when you are too busy painting the world red with the blood and guts of your enemies. But that's not to say there is no merit to the quote-unquote story playing out. Rather than simply being arenas where you happen to have tons of squishy demonic enemies you can turn into red paste, you are consistently going through a journey with each level. One of my favorite examples is early on. After escaping the Protean dimension and making your way through the chaos-infested facilities, you come across a train. You are consistently riding this train for several levels, with each stop requiring you to go and either refuel it or open up a closed path for you to move it forward, or later on just jumping to a completely different train to continue with your journey. This means the game has an awesome sense of progression to it, like you are actually getting somewhere instead of simply getting another level checked off the list. And along with that progression, you also get a sense of variety and escalation with each encounter. It starts fairly standard in the early levels, with just smaller crowds for you to happily mow down and defend yourself against, but as you move forward, the encounters get a lot harder. A variety of enemies start banding up together to pelt you with damage and teaming up to start draining your health to zero if you are not careful, and forcing you to actually use your arsenal to its full potential. Speaking of the arsenal, the full release of this game decided to take an interesting approach to how you secure your weapons. While a number of those you get naturally as you kill enemies, the rest of your arsenal and even upgrades to the movement and your ammo capacity are sold to you via the shop levels. Over the course of the game, you run into collectible ore pieces. There is a small number of those on each level, and once you collect enough of them, the game lets you know you can afford the price of a respective upgrade. And since more often than not you are going to have two choices for what to buy, you have to be smart about it. Or rather, you can freely choose what you want depending on what you feel like getting. If you decide to gather as much ore as possible, it simply means you will eventually get everything, and these weapons and upgrades are well worth it, because the game actually encourages you to replay its levels thanks to how the completion system works. To 100% complete Prodeus, you need to earn all 3 stars on every level, each assigned to a specific objective. One for killing all the enemies, one for finding all the secrets, and one for completing the level without dying. Until you get those upgrades, however, you are not going to be able to truly find everything, or kill all enemies right away. Once you get those upgrades, however, it is when the fun of the game escalates. A dash and a double jump open the doors for endless possibilities, both for you to find the remaining secrets and ore, and to also start learning speedrun strats. And the developers knew players will want to speedrun thanks to the trial levels. They are short and sweet little obstacle courses, each of them dedicated to every weapon class. All of them of course with their own secrets to encourage replayability, but the most important part is if you destroy all the targets within the time limit, you get rewarded with 3 bits of ore, so they help make it faster for you to get those sweet upgrades. Now let me make something clear here. I am the last person in the world you will consider a speedrunner. I won't try and do any type of crazy stuff unless the game mechanics actually encourage me to do so. And this game does encourage me, when I actually learn to skip entire sections double level and even unlock pacifist and max difficulty related achievements by simply learning when to dash and when to double jump. And it felt extremely satisfying. Now, I do have more praises to sing to this game, but I guess I need to do the obligatory flaws bit. This one is gonna feel weird because the flaws I'm going to describe are not really flaws, so much so as they are oddities. I do know the more hardcore fans of boomer shooters do consider these big flaws, but let's get into it. Personally for me, this game is perfect. I really wouldn't change anything that is in this game right now. If anything, the only real flaw for me, and a really good mark for the quality of this title, is the fact that I was left wanting more. You spend the majority of the game in the industrial levels, the whole point is to make your way to the Prodeus dimension, and then said dimension only has a handful of levels, and then the ice levels are even fewer. Specifically, I wanted to see more of the Prodeus dimension, if anything because of how unique it is compared to stuff I played in this genre before. More on that in a bit. But the point is, I want to see what more the devs could do with this game. And from what I'm hearing at the time of this recording, they do plan to add more levels, so I guess my prayers are answered here. Now the main flaw I've seen many people complain about, and this one will be the blood-soaked elephant in the room, is the checkpoint system. It is rather weird. Okay, so in most boomer shooters, you get to save progress via checkpoints or by saving manually. It's basically a staple of the genre. In Prodeus, however, whenever you die and respawn at an access point, nothing resets. Enemies you already killed stay dead, and essentially you can just brute force your way through the game by simply dying over and over again. I don't agree with this criticism. The biggest reason I disagree with this is because even if the checkpoint makes things easier, it then makes the purpose of completing the levels without dying make more sense. I did die several times over the course of my run, but I also went ahead and replayed those levels until I finally got all 3 stars. And I think the main reason this works out so well is because of how arcadey the levels feel. They are about the right length for a blind run, and also they are perfect to play faster and better on subsequent playthroughs. Not to mention, unless a gameplay feature actually detracts from the experience or makes it unplayable, I'd rather roll with the punches personally. After all, my biggest priority in gaming is having fun, and if in order to have fun in this game means I have to learn to defeat my enemies and conserve my health as much as possible in a no-death run, then I am more than happy to just roll with it. And the punches this game throws are just extremely fun. Remember what I said about escalation? Later levels in the game are made up of what I can only refer to as moving parts. Moving parts with a ton of verticality and a lot of constant changes in the arenas themselves as you make progress. Like having a level where a pool of acid slowly pushes you upwards as you grab your objective, culminating into an all-out battle royale between Chaos Demons and Protean Demons. Or having a level where you have to actively make your way into a sniper's nest while frantically moving from cover to cover as said snipers can and will tear you apart, while other enemies also want to paint the floor with your blood. With the climax of the nest itself taking down said snipers for extra satisfaction. Or even a level in the Prodeus dimension where you start up at the top of a sea of boiling water, guiding a laser through a number of beacons that open up a path to you, and before you realize, you are suddenly fighting hordes of enemies inside a freaking trench in the middle of said ocean, with again, the constant moving part showing that the level is moving alongside you. I just really love this type of dynamism. But if you complete the campaign one way or the other and you still feel like you can get more fun out of this game, there is the community maps and campaigns. There is an insane wealth of community-made content in this game, and the majority is just fantastic. I have played community maps that have actually pushed what the mechanics of this game can do, set pieces that could easily be their own games. I have played nearly perfect remakes of classic boomer shooters made within this game, and the fact they still fit with the playstyle of Prodeus while still bringing back memories of old is just mind-blowing. The sky is quite literally the limit, and right now community maps are still being made, so there is a fair bit of fun to be had with this game. Long story short, I love Prodeus. It's easily one of the best gaming experiences I had in recent memory, and I believe it's even the perfect entry point if you never played a boomer shooter before. It really is my subjective opinion that this game is subjectively perfect, and it's thanks to this game that I've been on a big itch to play more games like this. Maybe even replay those I already went through in the past, because sometimes it is like a good friend of mine said once. You are bound to have more fun with a game that focuses more on how good you get with your skills than with a game that will give you a reward because you filled up the super meter and pressed the win button at the right time.